Encounters and etiquette. Basically, be prepared to be asked, but don't be offended by the fact that in Taiwan, this culture, people have no problems asking personal questions. They will ask you how much money you make. They'll ask you how much you paid for your watch, or what your car costs, or what your rent is. It's not impolite. It's not rude. The other day I was in a taxi cab, and the driver kept asking me, "So, how much money do you really make every month?" You know? And I was like, well, not enough. And I was just kind of putting him off, but I wasn't offended. Americans might get offended by this and say, "Oh, how can you ask me that? That's so rude." But no, don't be offended, because that's just, they're trying to get to know you. They're curious. And people share this information all the time. Chinese New Year's, Lunar New Year's, everyone will be talking in Taiwan about how much bonus they got from their company. How much bonus did you get? Oh, I got 2 months. Oh, I only got 1 month. You know, this is normal conversation. So don't be offended by that. Taboo sensitive subjects in Taiwan, there are not many. But one that I would mention is don't talk at work unless you really know, and maybe outside unless you really know someone really well, don't talk about local politics. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. The U.S. was the same way. But with this election coming up, if you really know somebody really well, or you're outside of work, you can ask them. You can say, "What do you think?" But be careful at work, because it can be very divisive. Obviously, and there aren't many other things actually. You know, as a foreigner, you're going to get a huge get-out-of-jail-free card when it comes to sensitive subjects, because they're just going to say, "Oh, that's fine. They don't really know. It's okay. It's no big deal." Ethnic backgrounds, like I said earlier, it's not a big deal. People don't get wound up about if your parents are from mainland China or Taiwanese or whatever. It's for the younger generation, it just doesn't really matter that much anymore. I already mentioned sarcasm. Western or foreign critiques of Taiwan, be careful about that. And I'm not saying because you can't criticize Taiwan, but I think the main reason I'm hesitant if you're complaining about things to your Taiwanese friends and colleagues, it's not that they're going to get really angry at you, it's they're going to feel really, really bad. They're going to feel really bad that you don't like Taiwan, that you're not enjoying Taiwan. And they're going to feel, to use a good Taiwan term, they're going to feel really 不好意思. They're going to say, "Oh, I feel so terrible that this foreign friend of mine is having a terrible experience in Taiwan, or that they don't like this." And it's not, again, I think in China it's different. People read back and they get angry. "How can you say that? You can't criticize China. You have no right." In Taiwan, people I think feel bad. They feel, oh, this is so terrible. So if you're going to, you know, whinge about driving here, you know, do it to your fellow expats. Don't complain to your Taiwanese colleagues about it. We all know, and I will say this, driving is getting better and better in Taiwan. I grew up here, and I know I can speak to it. I'm sure Jim can too. So anyhow, marital dating status. Actually not a very sensitive subject. People will ask you, "So, are you married? You know, you have kids?" You know, that's not a big deal. It's not one of those things that's too sensitive. Flattery and humility. You'll notice that Taiwanese and Chinese, I think, tend to be very humble. Humility is considered a value, but sometimes they'll do it in a way that is kind of like, I think it's almost inviting a response. Like if you go to somebody's house for a meal, or they treat you out, they might say, "Oh, this meal is very simple. I'm very sorry it's so simple, there's not enough here." Of course, your proper response should be, "Oh, it's wonderful, it's great, it's the best meal I've ever had in Taiwan." But humility is considered a value here. You don't hear many people here bragging about something. They tend to go the opposite direction. And it is kind of comical, because there are times when you can tell that you can understand what your proper response should be. My friend jokes that sometimes he hears humility that's meant to make a point. Like he has a Taiwanese friend that says, "Oh, we're so embarrassed. My son did not make it into Harvard. He only got into Stanford. We're so humiliated." You know, so, you know, that kind of thing. Overcoming language barriers. I know that you're all very busy, but even learning a few words of Chinese will delight your Taiwanese hosts. They will be delighted even if you just say "ni hao" or "这个多少钱" or whatever. You know, I think that's good anywhere you go. So, you know, make a little effort to learn a few phrases and words. You're going to be here for a little bit, and it will really help you. And of course, when you say that, you'll get all kinds of praise. "Oh, your Chinese is so good." You know, but I think that's a helpful thing. And of course, one of the best ways to build relationships here is ask for help. Many foreigners say, "Oh, I don't want to bother my Taiwanese colleagues," or "I don't want to feel this obligation," or something like that. But believe me, that's a great way to build relationships. Ask your colleagues questions. Ask them for help. They would be delighted, for the most part, to give you that help and assistance. And it's a great way to build relationships. I've had so many people say, oh, I've heard the beef noodles in Taiwan are really good. Where do I get? And the Taiwanese are like, oh, really? I'm going to take you there. I'm going to take you to beef. I have the best beef noodle place in Taichung. And it's a great way to start a relationship, to build a connection with somebody. So ask for help. Gifts. I know this is a sensitive issue for some of you at work, but you will find that Taiwanese like to give gifts. Now, it's perfectly okay in a work environment if you just make it clear, say, look, according to our policy, we cannot accept this. I really appreciate it, but we have this rule, we can't do that. But you will notice that Taiwanese like to give gifts, either sometimes in a work environment and also in a personal environment. Gift giving this is a gift giving culture. And it's very interesting because I often make my Taiwanese friends understand that in the West, we're not a gift giving culture. We give gifts at birthdays and Christmas, but we don't do it for anything else. And that's baffling to people here, because the idea is that's it. That's all you give gifts. This is very much a gift-giving culture. Now, I will say this takes a more benign form, and it's something I think you can do. Is you'll notice whenever Taiwanese travel anywhere, they go to, even if they go to the East Coast or go up to the next village up the coast, whenever they come back, they often bring a box of something to share with their colleagues, food, snacks, gifts, some local specialty. I think that's good form. If you ever go back to the United States, just buy a box of some local specialty, bring it back, put it on the table and say, hey everybody, I brought this back for you guys to try. Good form. And it shows people that you're thinking of them. There's nothing, I don't think anything wrong with that. In Japan we have a word for it, it's called omiyagi. And it's part of their culture, it's part of the culture here in Taiwan. It's buying that little item, souvenir, that food item usually that you can share with your colleagues. And it's very nice, and you'll notice they do that too. Dinners. Company dinners are very important. It's a relationship building action. Remember at meals here, people do not tend to talk shop. They just want to have a good time. They want to get to know you. You'll notice that in very formal dinner settings, there actually is a seating order in Taiwan. And a simple point of note, my advice is just ask your Taiwanese host where they want you to sit. But a simple note is the seat that faces the door is the place of honor, and the lowest position is the one with the back to the door. That's on a table, even a round table. Someone told me that's because in Imperial China, the assassins would come to the door and stab the guy with the back to the door, so he was in the lowest position. So anyhow, so that's seating order. Not as important in Taiwan as it is in Japan, but if you're in doubt, just ask your Taiwanese host, where would you like me to sit? The other thing you'll notice a lot at dinners in Taiwan, especially company dinners, is there's a lot of toasting. And toasting is part of the meal. And of course, if you are the leading official, the highest person at your table, beginning of the meal, it's a good form somewhere near the beginning to stand up and say, everybody, I want to thank you all for coming, and you toast the table. You'll notice that as the evening goes on, individuals will probably be toasting you back. Now, you may be a teetotaler, you might not be an alcohol drinker, or you've maybe had enough. And that is perfectly fine in Taiwan. You can drink orange juice, you can toast tea, you can toast Coca-Cola, whatever it is you want. Or you can tell your host, I've had enough, I just want to drink Coke now, or whatever. And it's perfectly fine. They will not usually put any pressure on you. Unlike, I have friends who do a lot of business in Korea, where no doesn't seem to be an answer for I don't drink alcohol. So I have friends, I think it was a friend from Nike actually, he said, Koreans are vicious drinkers. They really go for the kill when it comes to drinking. So anyhow, but yeah, in Taiwan they're pretty laid back about that. Non-dinner social gatherings, I would say, it's okay these days, maybe not in the past, to go Dutch or to pay for your own bill. You just make that clear at the beginning, because you'll find that your colleagues will often, sometimes, especially if you're a new arrival, they'll try to pay the bill, they'll try to buy you the bill. But you can say, hey, look, everybody, we'll just go Dutch. And I think actually many Taiwanese know that term, go Dutch, to pay for your own meal. Okay, let's just move on here, because I think most of these things are self-explanatory. Is that it? Okay. A few more basic things that I think many of you already know. Giving and receiving anything here, especially gifts, use both hands. If you have a name card in one hand or a drink in one hand, it's okay to take it with one hand. Of course, if your one hand's occupied. But you'll notice in Taiwan, if people give and receive gifts, or even sometimes ordinary items, they'll do it with both hands. receive and give with both hands. It's a sign of respect. Another thing with gifts is there's always a polite refusal. If someone does give you a gift, it's always considered good form to politely say, oh, no, I shouldn't receive this. And some of my friends have said you refuse 3 times and then it's okay. Okay, then I'll take it. There are certain items that you should not give that are considered unlucky as gifts. One is clocks, because the term song zong is kind of like to send someone to their funeral. That's what it sounds like in Chinese. Obviously, towels and handkerchiefs are not a good gift because they reflect, some people say it kind of reflects the funeral. If you go to a funeral in Taiwan, they're often given a free towel or a handkerchief for the mourners. Another one is sharp objects because it represents cutting the relationship. So don't give someone a Swiss Army knife. So anyhow, those are just some basic ideas about that. In terms of unwrapping gifts, it's very interesting. You'll notice when you give a Taiwanese person a gift, they may not unwrap it in front of you because that would be considered greedy. Now, I have been given gifts by groups of Taiwanese where I politely was going to put it aside, but then I noticed they were all watching me very carefully. And I thought, so then I asked them, I said, would you like me to unwrap this now? And they were like, yeah, sure. So I unwrapped it because I think they wanted to see my reaction. But normally if you give someone a gift, they might thank you and put it aside, not unwrap it in front of you. I think you know the whole thing about chopsticks. Don't shove your chopsticks in the rice bowl because it looks like incense at a funeral, all this stuff. It's pretty basic.